I'm John Seacott, executive editor of Brewer. Welcome to the Brewer Podcast here on YouTube and Spotify. Make sure you're liking and subscribing and following along at brewermag.com. 24 hours a day, your business resource needs are there. Of course, also ciderbusiness.com you can check out. We are sponsored by Keg Logistics and Square. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day-to-day of it all. Now, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off of you so you can actually enjoy why you started it in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery app payouts faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/goodstuff to get started. That's square.com/goodstuff. And you can also go to keglogistics.com/brewermag for more details on Keg Logistics. Okay, well, every other month, we like to take time to chat with a member of a state guild to get insights from another part of the craft beer industry. And today's guest is Shawnee Adelson. She's executive director of the Colorado Brewers Guild. And we're going to go beyond beer festival posters and social media pics to talk about the real operational side of guild-driven events. That's from the invention of their Colorado Pint Day, which a lot of people have taken to, Collaboration Fest, the Lake Dillon Beer Fest, and the yearly Colorado Brewers Rendezvous. The Guild coordinates some of those most recognizable craft beer events in the state. But what does it actually take behind the scenes to make those events successful for breweries, sponsors, and consumers, of course? We'll talk about logistics, sponsorship expectations, event planning, brewery participation, and why state guilds still play a critical role for breweries trying to survive as they grow in 2026. Here's my conversation with Shawnee Adelson on the Brewer Podcast. This Brewer Mag Podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. And we welcome in Shawnee Adelson, the executive director of the Colorado Brewers Guild, here on the Brewer Podcast. Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, it's great to, like I said, off camera there a second ago, that it's just always great to be able to kind of put a face to a name. You know, I always see a lot of things going on in Colorado. So obviously one of the more important states in the union of craft beer. So I'm looking forward to hearing, some of the things that you guys got going on. And one of them just wrapped up. A couple of them have just wrapped up recently, Colorado Pint Day and the Collaboration Fest. Everyone always knows that, these are great guild building, fundraiser type things, being able to put people together, but there's a lot of operational scope behind it. Can you kind of share in on that, like how the planning goes? And we'll start with Colorado Pint Day since it was the most recent one. What do you think a lot of breweries don't understand when it comes to putting together something so extensive when you have 200 plus breweries working together for a day?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado Pint Day is a pretty cool event just because it is over 200. We had over 220 breweries participate this year throughout the state. And for people that don't know, I'll just give a little spiel about it. It's a fundraiser for the guild, but really we tried to make it an event that brings people into tasting rooms so that it can raise money also for those breweries. So definitely a fundraiser for us, but also one of the busiest Wednesdays of the year, a lot of our members say, which is great to see that. And, for an event like that, we've been doing that event since 2016. We started it as just on a lark to see if there'd be interest. And we used our State of Craft Beer logo on a glass just to see. We had about 30 breweries that participated. So it's grown a lot in the last 11 years. And it's gotten a lot more complicated with that. So with that, we now realize that the art on the glass is really what drives interest and why people want to collect them. We have people that are collecting them every year. We get people asking us, I missed one year. Do you have any left? I broke mine. My husband broke mine, all those kind of sob stories. And unfortunately, we just don't have access to all of them. But, the art, back to the art, we start thinking about that almost a year in advance. We have our marketing and events committee come up with a theme each year on what the theme should be. So this year's theme was Colorado's 150, the US's 250. And so with that, we put the theme out there. And then once we choose a theme, then we have to choose an artist. And we've done it a number of different ways. But this past year, we put out an RFP and we said, hey, here's the theme. We don't need you to create art yet, but we want you to send us a portfolio of what your art looks like. We had over 40 artists submit their portfolios that our committee reviewed and voted on, and it took a while to go through all of that. So that's a big part of the planning process, is figuring out who the artist is going to be, what the theme is going to be. And then once we choose that artist, making sure that the art will actually print on the glass that we choose. So we have to work with our glassware printer. We work with both Belter and Grandstand. We've done both, and making sure that it'll print appropriately on the specific glass. We always use a Willie Becker glass. It's the same glass every year. I know other guilds do different glasses. I think there'd be some love-hate if we changed it. Some people might like mix it up every year, but then it doesn't fit into your collection. So we've stuck with the Willie Becker, but it does create some nuances of how to make sure that the print looks good, prints appropriately. There aren't any issues with that. So we do a lot of work with our glassware printer to make sure the lines are the correct thickness and we have the right colors and all of that stuff. So that all takes a long time before we even let brewers know about the artwork and if they can order the glassware. So luckily it's not just me. We have our committee made up of members that help us with that process.
Yeah, and it is really cool, and it seemed to have spawned. Do you think, were you guys the first one to do it? Because I know, like in Ohio, we've been doing it since I think 2020 or 2019, somewhere in there. I definitely remember it. And like you said, 2016. How many pint days are there now? Do you know offhand? I mean, there's a lot now, I think.
There's a lot. So, one of the things that's cool about the guilds is that we all share ideas with each other, and we want to support each other and make sure that guilds are successful across the country. And so in 2020, when a lot of guilds couldn't do our normal in-person beer festivals, I encouraged a lot of guilds to try this model because it's a fundraiser, but it also helps breweries too. And so a lot of guilds started doing it in 2020 or 2021. And so you see it. I have glasses from Ohio, New York, Georgia, Wyoming. I know Washington's done it, Idaho's done it, Texas. So you see it in large beer states, you see it in smaller beer states, New Hampshire. So it's pretty cool to see around the country. But we, as far as I know, we were the first guild to do this and really set the stage of how to work with a glassware vendor on how to execute 220 different orders into one print and then shipping it out to all those different locations. So from the glassware printer, it is also a pretty complicated process for them too.
What have you learned about, speaking of the breweries and working with them, motivating them to, do something like this? And, now I think it almost becomes, yep, okay, we're going to plan on this. We know when it is, type of thing. But how was it kind of getting things going? And have you seen growth over the 10 years? Like you said, it's from 30 to 200. Have you seen dips or anything, or is it kind of just moving up to the right?
We've seen a pretty stable participation rate over the last 4 or 5 years, I would say. And that's actually, I think that's a good thing that we've seen stable, because we have seen a decline in number of breweries in Colorado. Unfortunately, I think we lost last year. We had over 50 breweries close. Some of those reopened as breweries, so it wasn't a net 50 loss, but we did see about 30 breweries net loss last year. And so the fact that we're able to maintain the 220-ish participation shows that there is still excitement from breweries that are existing and new breweries. So we do get new breweries that participate every year. And then it's usually everybody that has participated in the past likes to participate again. So one of the things, John, that I do is I look at who participates the prior year, and I send them individual emails and say, hey, don't forget to order, because inevitably somebody forgets to order and we just don't have enough glassware to go around.
Sure. How do you evaluate that as what makes it a success? I guess, is it number of glass sales, more traffic for breweries, anecdotal membership, goes up because other people want to join? I mean, what do you consider it a successful year when you have Colorado Pint Day?
Yeah, successful. I mean, number of glasses is always great, but I think really number of breweries that participate, we want to make sure that we're hitting a certain percentage of the breweries in the state. So we've always had this goal of hitting 80% of breweries participating in the state, which is a pretty high, lofty number there. But I think in terms of other anecdotally, we do survey our members after the fact to see how it impacts them. And we get a lot of great feedback on how busy their Wednesday was. So we always do it on a Wednesday because we know it's going to be a slower day. Not all breweries are open on a Monday and Tuesday. So we choose a midweek day. And we saw this year, some of the responses we got was it brought in 3 times the normal business. It was the biggest day of our year. It was 400% plus compared to a normal Wednesday. We saw 4 times increased taproom traffic. So really the value is telling breweries is like, you're going to make more money on this too. Even though you have to buy the glasses, you actually see more traffic. And when we go out and visit breweries on that day, you meet people that this is their local haunt. This is the place they go every Friday afternoon with their family. But you also talk to people and they say, hey, this inspired me to go to a new brewery that I've never been to, that I've been wanting to check out. And so it's kind of a cool thing to see people getting out and supporting breweries on that day.
Well, that's awesome. And that's one way that you guys, have fundraisers and build your community. Another one that I think is amazing is the Collaboration Fest. And, I'm always jealous when Shay sends me the list, and we actually wrote about it this year on some of the collaborations just because they're so much fun. And, some can get wild and wacky, and some, build development between 2 breweries that maybe haven't had a chance to work together. How much planning goes into that, and how does Collab Fest work? Like, you have to get people together. How do you get them to coordinate with each other? How did you guys get this started? It's been many years now, like you said.
Yeah, we started this event in 2013. So it's been a long time that we've been working on this event. We usually, again, start planning about a year in advance. We are particular about the venue that we host this event at, and not all venues work for us. So one of the biggest things that's important for us is that brewers be able to pour their own beer. Not all venues let you have, we had 185 beers last year. So it's a lot of individual people. So not all venues let you do that. So that's a pretty important piece for us to maintain because brewers really want to showcase their unique product. It's not their core beers that they're pouring. It's something different. And so there's a story behind it. But we actually, brewers don't usually start planning until probably October or November. And that's early. Some people don't plan until 2 months before. And sometimes you don't get their beer information until 2 weeks before, so
No way.
I know, surprise, surprise. It can be like pulling teeth to get some information from brewers, but one of the things that we really like about this event is that we try and make it, what I like to say is that we democratize it. So, a lot of the planning goes into how we promote the event, but we're promoting the stories and the people and the uniqueness of the beer. So, John, you mentioned some of them are really wacky. We've had ramen beers, we've had mushroom beers, we have beers that are, the wort gets poured down a hollowed out spruce branch and things like
Okay.
that. But we also have breweries that are wanting to try a new product. So we might see them try a thiolized yeast that they've never tried or a different hop product that they might not have tried before. And so a lot of it's also, besides creativity, there's learning and education that the brewers really like to participate in. And so, like you mentioned, we see also some just like, I would say, beer flavored beers. They're one of the complaints we got from attendees this year was that there were too many IPAs. And we don't actually choose what style of beers brewers make. We want them to be able to choose that. So that's what's really fun about it. And then it is complicated. A lot of the beers are made with just 2 breweries. Sometimes it could be 5 or 6 breweries get together and make a beer together. Who's going to bring the jockey box? Who's going to bring the tent? Who's going to make the signage? We actually remove that. And so going back to democratizing it, we create all the signage. There are no tents. It's just tables, and we make it about the beer. And so it's not the flashiest brewery or the brewery that has the biggest marketing budget. It's just really about what's happening in the glass and the story behind that. And we're lucky enough that we can rent the BA's draft system, so we don't have to worry about the jockey box and who forgot and who didn't, and that kind of stuff. So it looks, professional, but also makes it a lot easier for our brewers to participate in that event. They just show up with their keg, pour beer, and they get to leave.
Very nice. Do you find brewers are approaching it differently now than maybe they were? Like, what can be experimental? Maybe we're past that now. I know, like, it was the wild and wacky west for so long, but like you said, so many people are, kind of getting into core brands and stuff. Do you have to kind of push people, like, try something different, or do you just kind of hands off, like, this is your baby, you guys make it?
We're totally hands off on it, John. We don't give any direction or boundaries on it. I would say we are seeing more traditional style beers, and I think part of that is that breweries recognize that they need to brew something that they can also sell in their tap room. If they're making a 7-barrel batch, they're going to have another 14 kegs to sell. So, they're making sure that they can sell through that in their tasting room. But we are seeing some breweries that are doing kind of one-off things. So it might say, hey, let's take, for example, we had Strange Craft Beer and River North collaborate this year with our media collaboration. So our local media always works with 2 breweries to make a unique beer. And this year they decided to do a blending. So they took 2 of their core beers and then they blended them together at a specific ratio. So they didn't brew a specific beer, but they made just a one-off that was just a sixtel of that blend, which was kind of unique. So we're seeing some more creativity in that sense, where you can still have some unique stuff that might not have to be a full batch of beer.
So I'm going to look on it just so I have the dates right here. You guys have the Lake Dillon Beer Fest coming up on June 13th. So just a few weeks. And then in July 11th, 30th annual Colorado Brewers Rendezvous, which are kind of like these are the 4 big, hitters for you guys every year. When it comes to Lake Dillon and the CBR, they have kind of a destination type of thing and experience. There's more tourism involved. It probably brings an entire different arc for you guys when it comes to working with, the municipalities, your tourism boards, finding new local partners. How does putting those together differ from like what you just came out of?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So Lake Dillon and Colorado Brewers Rendezvous are much more destination oriented. They're in the mountains. And so something like the Lake Dillon Beer Fest it's beautiful. It's on a lake. There's backdrop with the mountains behind it. Like, you can't get any more pretty picturesque for a beer festival, honestly. But with that, a lot of the attendees end up buying day of tickets because there are people that are up there for the weekend with their family or their friends, and they're not sure what to do. And so it's a different feel for sure. Versus Salida, a lot of people actually make it a destination. So we have people that come every year with their families from Texas or Arizona, and they travel to Salida because they love Salida and they love the beer festival. So they plan months in advance to come to an event like that. And to your question about working with municipalities, I think tourism has changed a lot since the pandemic, since 2020, and there's a lot more people that work remotely in these mountain towns, which adds more of a local base to coming to these events. However, tourism still is an important part of these economies. And so you're still seeing tourism, but it's just a little bit different than what we used to see in the past. And I say, like Dylan, a lot of day of tickets. Honestly, all festivals these days are last minute buyers. We're seeing a lot of
Yeah.
that, even with these being destination events. It's not something that we had traditionally had at the Salida Rendezvous in the past, is dealing with kind of last minute ticket buyers. But, the municipalities love bringing these types of events into their cities because it is something for the tourism folks to do during the day and spend some time at their local breweries and restaurants and bars after.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, it's got to be hard planning wise. I know I guess I could say it's not happening because I haven't heard anyone talk to me about it yet. But in June, we usually have the Toledo Beer and Bacon Festival, and we've done it for 10 years. And the numbers of day of sales kept going up every year, since 2020 or 21 when we had finally got back at it. And the unfortunate part is you can't plan any as well anymore. And like when it's a food-based beer festival, so we don't even know how much of the little old Hungarian ladies at the Hungarian Club of Toledo are going to be cooking bacon. They were doing all that Tuesday through Friday, and then the events on Saturday. And all of a sudden, we were running out of food in 24 because we'd only sold X amount of tickets, and then some more people showed up. And then all of a sudden your budgets are so wildly different. I mean, are you seeing things like that, even just on your end?
For sure, for sure. We've done a couple things, John, to address that. So merchandise is one thing that we deal with that is very similar to what you're talking about. The food is how much merchandise do we order for that event? And now we offer people to pre-purchase their t-shirt before the festival if they know they want it. So that allows us to budget a little bit better of knowing, hey, based off of this is how many we think will sell the day of, but people can pre-order it. They make sure they guarantee the size that they want and they have it there for them. So that's definitely something that we always are looking at, though, John, is like even Collaboration Fest, it's day of ticket sales. There are a lot more than we used to see. And it's just last minute ticket buyers. And the other piece that I would add to it, you kind of alluded to this, is just costs have gone up across the board. And we've strived really hard to keep our tickets the same price that they have been for years, but our costs continue to go up for everything. It's just rentals cost more money, food costs more money, glassware costs more money, everything costs more money these days. So we understand the consumer's hesitancy, but we really do try to make sure that the ticket prices are approachable and fair for what we're offering.
And I'm sure it changes too over the years, the sponsorship angle. I know it's difficult all the time, and sponsors help drive a lot of this because that you have some of that funding going in so that you're not having to front it all the way. How has sponsorship changed over the years for you? And, how are you guys kind of combating that if you do see lower sponsorship numbers? This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency. Running a restaurant is a lot. You start out with a vision for something special, but that vision gradually gets overshadowed by the day-to-day of it all. Now, the thing that I love about Square is how it helps take some of that pressure off of you so you can actually enjoy why you started in the first place. When Square steps in, helping you save on food costs, get your menu seen by millions on Cash App, and get delivery app payouts faster, it frees up time and mental energy in a world where both are typically in short supply. Square, here for the magic that's not on the menu. Go to square.com/goodstuff to get started. That's square.com/goodstuff.
Yeah, we have seen lower sponsorship numbers depending on the event. And I think part of that is just that our sponsors often are companies that are reliant on the industry. And as we're in a little bit of a downturn right now, those sponsors are also feeling the brunt of that. And so they just have less marketing budget. So we've been trying to get more creative with how we work with them and how we can continue to show the sponsors value and maybe at a more reasonable or approachable rate, and trying to come up with, I would say, more individualized sponsor packages instead of just a generic gold, silver, bronze package. Is, hey, what would showcase your brand the best, individualized, instead of just here's a flat fee and your logo gets to be put here.
Is it something that you hear from maybe longtime sponsors of how to change things and, be, like you said, personalize it more? That's through relationships. You can't get that information without having someone tell you.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I think that that's always something. So Emma, who's on my team, she works with all of our sponsors, and she always likes to have a phone call with them or an email or some kind of meeting that's, hey, what are you looking to get out of this to make sure that we're making this to be the best package for you specifically. So we do work with them extensively to figure out what makes the most sense for those sponsorships.
And when now you're in the summer season, that means it's going to be outdoors. How much do you do when it comes to risk management, getting ready for, weather, contingency plans? How have you guys have built something built in place that you love? Is it always something new popping up that makes you have to go, well, add this to the list to discuss later on?
Yeah. So Dillon, I'll use Dillon as an example. The festival in Dillon is right on the lake. It is extreme. It can get extremely windy there. So the fire department and the town have pretty strict rules on how you weight your tents and how much those weights have to be and how they are attached to your tents. And they actually come and check every single tent before the event to make sure that they're correctly attached so that there aren't any potential flying tents and injuries associated with that. So there are things that we think about in advance, but maybe it was 3 years ago at that event, we had every type of weather you could think of. I think it rained, hailed, sunshine. People were buying hats and sunscreen because it was too hot, and then they were buying hoodies because it was too cold. So we experienced that all within a 3-hour window, and that's pretty standard for Colorado. So we always are just keeping an eye on the weather and trying to adjust and making sure that people are safe. That's our biggest piece, is making sure that all of their participants are safe. And luckily, we've had really good partners that can help us make those decisions. In Salida, we've actually lucked out a lot. We even, in 2021, we hosted it in October, which I know GABF is coming in October outside. And I like to remind people that some of our diehard fans for the rendezvous said it was the best rendezvous ever because it was such a nice temperature. It was really comfortable. We had sunshine and it was great, but it was in October. So I think we just got to keep that in mind for GABF, is that it doesn't always snow in October in Colorado. It could, but it doesn't always. But we've been doing the rendezvous. This will be our 30th anniversary, which is pretty great. There's not many festivals out there that can say that they've been around for 30 years. And so, we've definitely set up our systems to make sure that event goes smoothly.
When you do have kind of prestige as, hitting your 30th, is it easier to say why it's worth it still? Because again, that conversation of beer festivals, it's waned. I've written that article. I've talked to people about it, but if there's a brewery debating about it, why is it still worth it to be out in the public at a beer festival?
Well, John, the cool thing is that the rendezvous has such clout within our industry that we actually have a wait list of over a dozen breweries for that event right now. So we don't usually have a hard time recruiting breweries for the rendezvous just because of the experience that we give them. We, as a guild, one of the things that I've really focused on over the last few years, and even, since I think the guild has started, is that we try and make our events brewer centric. So we want the breweries to enjoy the event so that they want to be there. That makes it a better experience for the consumer when they get to go up to the tent and talk to the person that made their beer. And that person is really excited to be there, instead of, your boss saying you have to work on a Saturday and you have to go do this. It's people that want to be there. And so we do that for Collab Fest too. We really try and make it a brewer centric event. We like to call Collab Fest, it's a class reunion or the Brewers Fest that the public's invited to, we make sure that over a third of the attendees are brewers, specifically at Collab Fest. That's always our goal, is to make it so that they can participate and have a good time.
Well, it seems like a lot's always going on. Do you get an off season? Do you have downtime, or is it constantly going on? I know obviously it's not just you, it's you and Anna, your committees. I mean, there's probably always something going, but is there an actual, like, we can take a breath for a week or two?
We try to, usually in the fall a little bit. I would say August and September are a little bit slower for us, but that's when we start planning our annual conference. Well, actually, we're planning it right now, but that's when we're really working on the speakers and the vendors and all that stuff. But it is a little bit slower, I would say, in August, September. Our summer months, because our summer events are stacked early June and early July. For the guild, we actually have more flexibility during the summer when a lot of our breweries are at their busiest times. So that, we get to go out to our members and see them more at their events and at their breweries during those months, which is kind of fun because that's when everybody wants to go out and support a brewery. So we get to go out and do all the fun things with them.
The one thing that I don't think a lot of probably consumer on the side understand is, how important a guild is. And, you guys aren't just putting on beer festivals. You're not event planners. You're advocates going out and doing things politically and legislatively. But of course, this is your public side as well. I mean, how important are the events to help shape what the consumer perception of what Colorado craft beer is?
I think they're actually super important. I would say Colorado Pint Day gives us the most exposure to the consumer out of any event that we do because we really market it as a fundraiser for the guild. $1 per glass goes to the guild. We've gotten the governor to come for the last, I'm trying to think, 4 years. So I think he's come the last 4 years. We choose a different brewery each time. He pours a few pints for people. He promotes it as something that is important to support small businesses. So I would say that the event side of things, sometimes people don't even know we put on Collaboration Fest. They might not know we put on the Rendezvous. They just know it's the beer festival in Salida that they like to go to. But really, Pint Day is where we get the most exposure to the public about what we do and what the importance of a guild for our brewery members.
And obviously, I think in any state, there's going to be non-members that are breweries, and you guys are always working towards that 100% goal. Are there misconceptions that you've heard whether it's through the grapevine or direct contact to you about why they don't want to be members, that actually that's a misconception? It doesn't exist. Like, what do you think you are fighting against when it comes to non-membership?
The value that we provide is probably the biggest thing. I think because of our public facing component related to festivals, I think some breweries say, well, we don't participate in festivals, so there's no reason for us to be a member of the guild. But I actually think the value that the guild provides outside of the community aspect that festivals create, the biggest value is really our legislative advocacy work that we do and ensuring that the laws are favorable for craft brewers. And, if you're not a member of the guild, you're still going to get the benefits of all of the work we do. And so you're really relying on your fellow brewers to subsidize that work. So that's, I would say, if you care about what we do at the Capitol, that's the most important piece to consider. And, this year we were able to successfully thwart 2 bills that would have increased state excise tax by 165% for brewers. If you do the math, that for an average size brewery in Colorado, that's about $1,000 a year in taxes on top of what they're already paying. And your dues for that size are less than half of that. So if you're looking for a value proposition that really shows like an ROI, we have been able to show that at the legislative level. The other piece of legislation that we worked on this year was to remove the interchange fees, prohibit interchange fees, also known as swipe fees on credit cards for your sales tax specifically. So sales tax is a pass through. We're trying to make it so you don't have to, a brewery wouldn't be charged that 3% or 2.9% on the sales tax specifically. That bill has passed out of the House and the Senate. So that would be cost savings as well. That would be more than what your dues are worth. So we're trying to make sure that people understand that there is value. These breweries are going to get that benefit regardless. And that's kind of the tragedy of the commons is, it's the same as public radio and other things that are freely available. You're going to get the benefit regardless of if you participate and pay into it. But we really think it's important that people do participate. So it's not only on your neighboring brewery that is paying into that.
Absolutely agreed. Well, are there still things that you guys are looking to do as a guild, whether it's finding more consumer engagement, putting new educational pieces out, getting more involved with retailers, anything even non-beer maybe related, although you guys are a beer guild, but do you think there's something to kind of future-proof the guild going forward that you still want to work on?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, I think one of the things that we are always striving to do is to promote breweries within Colorado and to promote Colorado as a destination for craft beer. So we're constantly looking for partners in ways to promote that. And, we're not here to necessarily promote the Brewers Guild to the public. We're here to promote the breweries to the public. So we're always changing up what that promotion looks like and how we can get into the eyes of the consumer, encourage people to go out and support their local brewery. So that's an ever evolving target, right? Like things change on how you market all the time. And so who those partners are changes all the time, but continuing to maintain relationships with the local DMOs as well as the state tourism office is really important for us, and maintaining that relationship also with out of state media and encouraging people to understand the importance of Colorado's beer scene and the history that we've had and where we are currently.
Well, you guys have been doing a good job so far, and always happy to have a chance to talk about it. But I love ending things with a little less serious, a little more fun. So I got 3 questions for you, some fun ones. And so thank you for, talking the business side and the state guild side, but
Yeah.
a little more about you, a little more about just thoughts in general. So number 1, which brewery do you wish you opened, or which beer brand do you wish you had created?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Especially for Colorado.
Especially for Colorado. I mean, I guess I would say, oh, this might not be the right answer for a lot of people. They might think it's wrong, but the legacy of Fat Tire, creating that brand and that beer when they did was like, I mean, you look at Colorado and craft beer was built on amber ales. So we have Fat Tire, we had 90 Shilling, we have Sawtooth, we have Avalanche. And so all of those beers from all those breweries at that time really put us on the map. And I think Fat Tire really was something that people latched onto and really could understand at that time, where it was approachable but different. So the old Fat Tire, which apparently they've brought back.
Yeah,
So I
that's
got
what
to try it, I guess. But I think, they are no longer craft. And so I don't know if everybody would appreciate that answer, but I just think the importance, the historical significance of amber ales in Colorado, and specifically Fat Tire, was instrumental to making Colorado craft beer what it is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting as the reformulated or whatever, they just grab the old recipe and are putting it back out. It'll be interesting to see, because palates change over the time. Like all of a sudden you haven't had it for a few years. It'll be interesting to see what people think about it as Fat Tire comes out again as the amber ale.
Honestly, I had a Sunshine Wheat because they've also released that, and it tasted pretty good. I'm not going to lie. Just tasted like beer.
Nice. Well, let's just say you suddenly have to give a TED Talk on something completely unrelated to beer or your job right now. What are you weirdly prepared to speak on?
Probably gardening. I've been an avid gardener for many, many years. Well, for decades now.
Cool.
And every year I'm learning something new. So currently I'm learning a lot about soil composition and the importance of various things like phosphorus read this excellent book on phosphorus. And I'd love more people to understand what phosphorus is and how it is in our environment and how it plays into soil health and gardening.
See that you're ready for something. I want to hear that TED Talk now. Get to work on that.
Okay.
Last one. What's your most aggressively mediocre skill?
These are all really good questions, John, that I was so not prepared for. What am I just?
That's the fun part about this.
I'm just okay at driving. If anybody else wants to drive instead of me driving, I'm totally happy with that because I don't consider myself a great driver. I'm not a scary driver, but it just you might think I'm the grandma where I'm driving slowly because I'm just not a great driver. Maybe that's the answer.
But the cool thing is, usually if you end up not driving, you get to control the radio then. So then you get to choose the music.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if my husband and I are going anywhere, he's always driving. It's not even a question. So then I get to choose the music while he drives.
That's why I like driving alone. I still get the music.
You get to control both.
Exactly.
Nice.
Well, Shawnee, it was great to talk with you about all this, and I'm going to remember if we ever run into each other that I'm driving.
Okay, that's a deal. I'll take you up on that. John, it was great chatting with you today, and thanks for all of the I would say less traditional questions than I normally get. Media usually wants to talk about the consumer facing side, so it's kind of fun to talk a little bit more about the business and the back end. So appreciate chatting with you today.
This Brewer Mag podcast is sponsored by Keg Logistics. Now's the perfect time to review your keg management strategy. Whether you're seeking a truly flexible keg rental program or intrigued by the seamless distribution freedom of paper fill, Keg Logistics is ready to craft a personalized solution for you, ensuring you receive the kegs you need precisely when you need them. For details, visit keglogistics.com/brewermag. Keg Logistics, modern solutions for keg efficiency.